Hey! So, it's been a long time since I've made a video. If I was going to start releasing videos on my channel again, I feel like this video is the perfect one, especially over the past year or so, a couple of months, I don't know. There is pressure to get the COVID vaccine, and I feel like the fear of needles is a pretty common fear. I had my vaccination maybe a week and a half ago, where like a month before that it wasn't even like I wasn't ready, I didn't feel ready, and so I thought I would talk you through the process. Fear of needles is pretty common, I feel. To be fair, I don't know anyone who likes getting injections, but I thought I would just talk about my experience and how I got over my fear of needles. Like, when I say get over my fear of needles, there is still very much a discomfort there. I think that is going to take a little bit more time to work through, but to me, the fact that I could not only get my vaccine but also get my nose pierced, that is huge, huge, huge. So I'm celebrating these wins, and I thought it would be helpful for me to make this video so that if you struggle with the same thing I struggle with, then hopefully I can help in some way. Firstly, I think the most important thing that started me on the journey of my desensitization to needles was wanting to get over that fear. So pick your why. I knew that I wanted to get the vaccine, so that gave me a huge incentive to tackle my fear head on and take steps to overcome it. Like I said, starts with your why. I had no doubt in my mind that I had enough of being scared of needles, and I realized that it has the potential to hold me back. You'll need to pick your own why, but you'll know that it's right when you know. You'll know when you know. For me, it was really like linked to a lot of emotion when I made that decision that I was going to get over my fear of needles. It was, yeah, like first the feeling that I was just, okay, first scared, right? Like first really, really scared. But then, yeah, just a sense of being fed up, like fed up with this thing that is holding me back. And that kind of propelled me forward to make a plan. So the first thing was looking at photos of needles. When I first started looking at photos of needles, I felt nauseous. I used to feel like panicky. My palms would start sweating. My breathing would get faster. It was just not like it was very uncomfortable, but that is okay. And this process will take as long as it takes. And as much as you do need to push yourself, there's also you know how far. So you really have to like take that on yourself, and I think that's why having your reason why you've started this journey is so important, because that's the thing that got me moving. Just the determination to see this through, and even when it was comfortable, also knowing that that was going to get better and that was going to get easier, and it did. So I can now comfortably look at photos of needles. I'm also a details person, so I found that it was beneficial for me to look at the different gauges of needles. Like, oh, they use like, you know, a 24 gauge for intramuscular injections, and they use like this gauge for like this. And so that was very interesting to me, and just building familiarity with this thing that I was so scared of was incredibly helpful. So there was that, looking at photos of needles, and then looking at photos of people being injected. That was the next step, and I wish I could remember like a clearer timeline for me. It started like every third day I would kind of say, okay, like I'm gonna sit down, you know, and look at a couple of photos of needles, or today I'm going to look at photos of people having an injection, or like having an injection while looking happy. I was very specific in my search. I was like, these people need to look stoked when they are having an injection. Like, it was important to me to really have a positive association with the needles, and seeing people, like, you know, in your mind, right? You know, people get blood taken every day, they donate blood all the time, like people are getting injections all the time. I have a few friends who are diabetic. They need to inject themselves multiple times a day, and so, you know, logically, like, you can kind of rationalize it, but fear is irrational. And I found some of the most unhelpful things that people said when I told them about my fear was like, oh, but it's not that bad, oh, but just don't look, oh, people, you know, it's such a small thing, you won't even feel it, like blah blah blah. But I mean, you know, you've probably shared your fear with people around you, and you've probably heard similar things, similar, like, really unhelpful things from, to be fair, people who have really good intentions but who just can't relate. Yeah, I know those things are unhelpful to hear, and that's why I'm making this video from someone who can honestly relate. Step 2 after looking at photos of needles was buying a needle. So this is actually like a pretty big step. I worked it up. At that stage I could look at a video of someone explaining how an intramuscular injection works and like feel pretty okay with it. I went one time, like, friends of mine needed to get vaccinated, not for COVID, like for just they went to go and have another injection, and I could watch the nurse do that comfortably. That feeling of very uneasy, like kind of nauseous, like can't really look, that wasn't there anymore. So I also decided throughout this whole journey to celebrate those things. Like, when I noticed, oh, I can look at a picture of a needle and not feel queasy anymore, or I can look at a picture of a needle and feel pretty relaxed. You know, definitely not how I used to feel. That was the sign to me that I needed to move on to the next step. And so I went to Discam and I looked at the needles. I was super surprised at just like the range of like needles and syringes, and so I treated it like a big adventure. So these are the needles that I ended up buying at Discam. This one was in like a plastic sleevey that I just took out. You can see the needle like pretty clearly through the clear sleeve. And this, I just used to, like, literally what I'm doing now, like hold it in my hand, look at it, just have it, be comfortable holding it. These also I've never opened, like these are slightly smaller gauge than this one. So getting comfortable with that, also making it a really positive experience, was really, yeah, helped me make positive associations. Also consciously saying to myself, like, people do this all the time and they're fine, and I can also be fine. Even though I had never believed that before because I was just so scared. Talking myself through this process really helped. And then when I was familiar with the needles, like, I don't have any, I used to feel pretty uncomfortable with them, but like I don't feel uncomfortable at all, like just holding these now. So step 2, buy a needle. Step 3 is familiarize yourself with the needles. Step 4, which I kind of did before I even started familiarizing myself with like a needle, is look at photos of people having an injection. So in the beginning as well, that made me feel really uneasy. Like I couldn't look at the beginning. I used to like look away and close my eyes and just like kind of wait until I felt like it was safe to look again. And that process has also gotten easier over time. Also, I found at least that people are very willing to help you overcome your fear if you let them. So like I said, I watched my friends having an injection, and the nurse was super happy to like explain the whole process to me, and she was really lovely. And I find that that helps as well, helping when other people don't make you feel bad about your fear. And then obviously the last most important step is going to do the thing. I kind of was between let me set a date and I'll just go when I feel brave enough. But I found for me, having a date and also telling people you're gonna go on that specific date is really helpful because it adds accountability. I have an amazing friend who she had her nose pierced on the Thursday, and then I saw her on the Friday. I said, oh my gosh, you have your nose pierced, that's amazing, it looks so good. I've wanted to have my nose pierced for a long time. And she said, well, you know, why aren't you doing it? And I said, well, I'm saving money this year, so I'm going to wait until I've saved like what I want and I feel like I can spend my money on that. And she said, well, if you have your nose pierced tomorrow, so that's the Saturday, if you have your nose pierced but like only tomorrow, I'll pay for it. And there was no excuse, but I knew I had gotten to the stage with needles that I knew that the next step was just going for it. And she was really helpful, and she said, look, like, you've done all this work as well, you're not going to be more ready than you're going to be right now. And so I was like, okay. It was almost an out-of-body experience. I was saying okay, and in my heart I was panicking. And everybody knows like how scared I am of needles. But I just said yes. I was like, you know what, like, let's do it, let's just see what happens. Worst case scenario, I'm like, yes, I'm gonna do it, and then I don't, and then I feel disappointed. So what happened on the Saturday was that she came over. I took some like medicine just to take the edge off my my kind of anxiety and my fear, because I was feeling very nervous. And I think I took a painkiller beforehand as well. I think I like had a little bit of a cry beforehand, but I was like, it was like a sniff and then it was over. But I was feeling so scared. I was shaking. I kept on like trying to like delay the process and push it out. Eventually I couldn't push it out any longer. It was like either you're gonna do this thing or you're gonna get up off this chair and move on. Maybe like try again later. And I knew that I wanted to have my nose pierced. Another helpful thing my friend said to me was, it's like a little bit of discomfort for a lifetime of like, you know, you wanted this for so long. And so that also puts it in perspective. It's like like a moment of discomfort for something that you're gonna have for a long time. And everyone was super patient with me. The guy who did my piercing, I asked him to explain everything to me, which he did really well. Like, he was super clear about what was gonna happen, and that gave me a sense of peace because I knew like nothing was gonna take me by surprise. And then my friend let me hold her hands, and I was like, okay, let's just do it. And it was, I don't really know, I think I was expecting something catastrophic because that's how your fear builds it up to be, but it felt like it took maybe like 5 seconds. Yeah, it was really quick, and it was uncomfortable, but not even unbearably uncomfortable. And I was so happy. I will never forget, like, even when I'm old, I'm still gonna remember the feeling of being so scared before and then kind of having a reaction afterwards like, oh, is that it? Is that all I was afraid of? Like, what was I afraid of in the beginning? And just feeling so happy and so proud of myself. And I even remember that day. So that was like 12 o'clock, I think, that I got my nose pierced. And then I was so amped, so stoked, and so just, yeah, like so proud of myself. I almost want to say I felt invincible, because at a stage I thought that I would never have the courage to do that, and I proved to myself that I could do it, and that was huge. And then I thought, oh, let me just, you know, since I've had this, like, it's a huge needle in comparison to the needle that goes into your arm for an intramuscular vaccine. That made me think, oh my gosh, if I can have that like through my nose, like, what is, you know, like a little thing like this. So it also helped put it into perspective for me. Not that you need to go have your nose pierced or do anything drastic, like just to have an injection, but it made the world of difference for me, because all of a sudden having an injection became possible. I never thought I'd be able to do it. And so that afternoon, it was Saturday afternoon, so like I couldn't get the vaccine, otherwise I would have had it then. Yeah, and then I had a real sense of like peace and determination to go get my vaccine on Monday, and I did. And I am fine. So yeah, Tuesday was uncomfortable. I felt a little bit sick, like I spent the whole day in bed. But in terms of getting over my fear of needles, that was huge. Another big thing that made a difference to me was that I came to understand over time that people are more afraid of dental injections, and that they think dental injections are worse than injections you have like on your body. And I prefer to go to the dentist over going to the doctor. And I've had tons of dental injections in my mouth, and even though it makes me feel like, I don't even use the word scared, like, or nervous, it makes me feel apprehensive. I know that I've gone through tons of those, and people are actually they're actually right. Dental injections, I feel, are a little bit more uncomfortable than an intramuscular injection, now that I can actually compare the two, knowing that I have a certain amount of like comfort, I want to say, with having a dental injection over having an intramuscular injection, made me feel positive about the experience, because I know, like, I've had tons of injections. Actually, I know that I can get through an injection in my arm, and I didn't always think like that. That's the thing, like, over time my perspective has changed. Also, a last thing that I want to mention that I actually learned from a book by a guy called Brandon Webb, Mastering Fear, I think it's called. He talks about visualization. I made my thought really immersive, like my daydream about going to get my vaccine very immersive. So I imagined what I was wearing, what the vaccination room looked like, how I was going to feel, how the conversation was going to go, and all of that was very positive. I did read one study though that said that people who smiled during their vaccination or while getting an injection actually experienced less pain. So that was a really helpful article for me. I was like, okay, I'm gonna smile when I get my injection, and I feel like it did work. But that was definitely part of my visualization, and then feeling how you think you're gonna feel afterwards. So I envisioned like the whole process, like getting the injection, having it not hurt, having a positive experience with the medical staff, being cheerful, being able to smile through it, the sense of accomplishment, knowing like what a big deal it is to overcome a fear like that. and then walking out with this sense of just feeling happy and proud that I had the courage to do something I was very, very, very scared to do before. I mean, it's the reason I haven't had blood drawn. Like, I'm just so like scared. So that's my next step. I will hopefully remember to put together a video when that's done. I don't have a timeline for that yet. If anything, I would rather do it sooner than later, while I'm kind of, you know, it's gonna be off the back of my success with having my vaccine and my nose pierced. I don't want to forget ever how those experiences felt, because I think those experiences are going to be the things that get me through having my next vaccine, like having my next piercing or whatever. So I really, really hope you found this video helpful, and yeah, good luck with your own process. I think that overcoming a fear is really courageous, and even, yeah, like it's not a small thing. I think you need to know that it's not a small thing to make a decision to actively and intentionally engage with something that scares you. That takes an immense amount of courage. Like, it's easy for people who aren't scared of needles to go and have an injection. It's a different story for people who are afraid of needles to do all this work so they can have an injection. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any questions that you feel like I didn't answer about how I overcame my fear of needles, then pop them down in the comment section below. I hope you go well. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It will help this video help more people to get over their fear of needles, so I would really appreciate that, and I will catch you in another video, hopefully. Cheers.
Don't want to mislead, this is all you need. Be your everything, yeah, I'll be your everything. Still too soon to